Good evening, folks. I would like to talk a little bit today about Spiderlegs Maul. And when we talk about Spiderlegs Maul, I'm not actually talking about Spiderlegs Maul. Let me explain. If you are someone who is going to 5-star, 6-star, 7-star Spiderlegs Maul, you're already in the throes of that. We are on Marquee number 5 in just a couple of days. And if you haven't already started on that path, it's going to be really expensive to get there just because you don't get to account for all of the free stuff that you got along the way, right? All of the free shards that you get from the marquee events. No, I'm not talking about you guys. But what we did find out last week, and the data mine dropped, was that when you do the Spiderlegs Mall Journey event, at tier 1, you are getting 2 Kyber lightspeed tokens. And at tier 2, you are getting 3 additional Kyber lightspeed tokens. Those are Relic 6 legacy characters for free. And the question that I have been asked multiple times over the last couple of days has been, hey, Egnards, does it make sense for me to 4-star or 5-star these characters just to get those lightspeed tokens? So let's talk about that right after the intro. And as always, if you find this type of information helpful, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. It does really, really help. So in just a couple of days, Inquisitor Barris will be coming to the game, and when Inquisitor Barris comes to the game, we will also be getting the Darth Maul event. And that Darth Maul event at first will require some 4-star characters and Stormtrooper Luke at a certain era level, eventually leading up to needing all of the characters at 7 stars in order to completely and fully unlock Spiderlegs Maul at 7 stars. Again, we're not really talking about that right now. And I also want to stipulate that we're not going to be talking about the cost to bring characters through era levels, because CG has given us the guideline that by the end of the era, any free-to-play player who consistently engages with this game mode without spending anything additionally will be able to get all of their characters to era level 65. And you will only need era level 55 to unlock all of these lightspeed tokens that are coming to the game. So while you might not be able to get all 5 of them in the first week that the event is available, you will be able to get all of them by the time the era is over. So let's kind of take a look at the event itself. We're going to pop on over to Discord. There it is. We see that tier 1 of the event, we need 4 stars on all 5 of the characters that are currently available. That's all the way through Inquisitor Barris. And you're going to need Stormtrooper Luke at era level 45. At tier 2, you're going to need 5 stars on all of the 5 characters who are available at that time, and era level 55 on Yoda and Chewie. And then tier 3 is when you need 6 stars and all 6 of them, so that's when Vader comes out. And 7 stars, you'll need era level 85. But again, we don't care about era levels here. We are specifically talking about being able to do this as free to play as possible, and whether it makes sense for players right now who have maybe slept on their Coliseum to invest some of their crystal hoard. Or listen, you're not free to play, but you've kind of been playing Coliseum free to play and you're not sure if it's worth spending the crystals, and you're kind of wondering what this is going to look like. That is what I am here for today. So we're going to pop on over to my own little sheet here. I have 2 sheets. Now, this sheet here is based off of the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario is if for some reason you get 5 shards from every single drop. There is a 17.44% chance that you get 5 stars. There is a 69.76, not 67% chance that you get 7 shards. The expected average is about 7.76 shards. So this is highly, highly, highly unlikely. But we want to talk about max cost here. And we're going to talk about it through the lens of the era pass and without the era pass, right? Because, or the episode pass, because maybe you didn't buy it. Maybe you are totally free to play. Maybe you're wondering. But at worst case scenario, if you did not buy the episode pass, right now it'll cost you about 3,900 crystals per marquee to get them to 4 stars. And that includes Inquisitor Barris's marquee that is coming up. That is going to be about 19,500 crystals total, or a converted cost of about $118. You might be scoffing at that price tag and you might be saying that sounds ridiculous. But the reality is, if you are an engaged player and you are dealing with Fleet Arena and you are saving your crystals, this might be something that is obtainable to you. Or maybe you did Stormtrooper Luke and IG-90 to 4 stars and you didn't do 2 or 3 more and you're wondering if it's worth it now to bring all of them up. So about $118 to get to 4 star, or 19,500 crystals overall. If you want to get to 5 star having not bought the episode pass, again, worst case scenario, 5 stars is about 93,000 crystals, or about $564 in converted value. We will talk about these numbers in a minute, but I want to give you the numbers so that you understand first. Now, if you bought the episode pass, and I will be honest, I personally, when I am talking about episode pass, I don't even consider it era spending or Coliseum spending. I just consider it regular game spending because I have been purchasing this since way before Coliseum came to the game. It's just worth it for all of the other materials you get. This is the icing on the cake. But if I buy that episode pass, that drops my 4 star total down to 0. So if you have already been doing this, you are going to be able to get 2 of those lightspeed tokens literally for free. Not really free, I know, shut up, I get it. But in terms of Coliseum, literally free. For 5 stars, you're going to need about 72,000 crystals, or about $441 in converted crystal cost, right? Those are for the worst case scenario. And you'll notice that Inquisitor Barris's numbers for 5 star are much cheaper, because that marquee has the free shards available to it through the the character marquee event that's going to be coming up. So you'll be able to get a lot of those free shards over the first week. Now, this being the worst case scenario, let's look at the actual average and what a person can actually expect to be spending. For the average, if you did not buy the episode pass, you're looking at about 12,500 crystals, or $76 in converted crystal cost to get to 4 stars. That seems a lot more manageable, to be completely honest with you. And this is something that a lot of players probably could do if we're thinking about, hey, I want to do this all the way through and up until the end of the era, because you have all the way through the end of the era to get to Spider-Legs Maul, as long as the packs are offered. And let's think about CG for a minute. Of course, they're going to offer those packs towards the end of the era because they want to increase spending. For 5 stars, it'll cost about 60,000 crystals, or $369 in converted crystal costs. With the episode pass, this comes down significantly. So with the episode pass, that 4 star is free, right? Again, not really free, but free. For 5 stars, you're spending 47,000 crystals, or $287 in converted crystal costs. Now, 47,000 crystals does seem like a lot, but if you recall back in the Jar Jar days when Jar Jar was announced, we ended up saving about 90,000 crystals over the course of that timeline to get Jar Jar on day 1 without spending a dime during that time period. And that was really nice. That was a little bit of a longer time period. And I did start with a hoard of about 40,000 crystals. So we actually raised about 50,000. But if we think about this as a light spender and saying, hey, I am going to save these crystals for a while and then maybe buy a $50 pack, it may be perfectly feasible. But the real question that you're asking here, and the real reason you're watching this video, of course, is to ask the question, Egnards, is it worth it to do this? Does it make sense for me? And does it make sense for my account to prioritize these 5 lightspeed tokens and burn all of these crystals? And the answer honestly is, and I know this sucks, that it depends. It depends so disgustingly heavily, right? It depends on where you are in the game. But I do want to look at something to drive home one point, because if you are still in the gearing and mid game portion of the game and Kyrotech is still a huge problem for you, I put together this little chart. I literally randomly picked 6 characters. I did not try to cherry pick this. Yes, old characters have no Kyrotech cost other than the 100 that it takes to get the finisher. But this is what it looks like for the majority of newer characters. And by newer characters, I basically mean anything after like Darth Revan. You are looking at about 350, about 400 to 500 Kyrotech needed per character. It's about $8.50 for 50 Kyrotech. So all of these characters just in Kyrotech cost are $68 to $85. That is huge just for one character to get them through all their Kyrotech costs, right? And when we think about it that way, we think, hey, it might actually be worth it for me to spend to get this brand new toy that might be usable at 5 stars, since we can get him all the way to 5 stars. I think is Relic 4 now. It might be usable for me in my game. It might help me out a little bit in that way. And I will be saving a ton of Kyrotech. Now, if it were me, and I already have my characters at 4 stars because I did buy the episode passes. If this were me, I think that let's just get this here. I think that if I did not have the episode pass and we were looking at the worst case scenario, which is about $120 in converted crystal costs, I probably would take the risk. And I probably would spend the crystals in order to get all of those characters to 5 stars, just so that I could speed up my 2 characters. I don't know if I would decide to bring them to 5 stars, given the worst case scenario and given not purchasing the episode pass. I do think 93,000 crystals is very steep, and I don't think you get enough for doing that. Now, if we want to think not worst case scenario and we want to think about the averages, I think what it would take for me to say, you know what, I'm going to bring these to 5 stars is if I purchase the episode pass. For 47,000 crystals, I actually think if I felt it was feasible for me to save to get to that amount, that I would get the 5 lightspeed tokens if I did not have an account that was already in the end game. Right now, for me, those lightspeed tokens are almost meaningless. I don't have very many characters left. If I did, if I were still doing GL grinds, I could see how being able to speed up Leia, for example, by 5 characters may actually increase my average crystal income per month pretty significantly if I am somebody that does not have that many tools in my roster. So if I have been buying the episode pass, I would consider this, and I would consider this pretty strongly. However, there is one more thing we want to consider, or rather 2 more things we want to consider. Number 1, we don't actually know if these lightspeed tokens are going to be long-term lightspeed tokens. And what that means is when the Darth Maul event comes back in soon TM, we don't know if we will see those again. We don't know if they will be there. We have no idea if this is just a first run reward or not. We don't know, and it kind of sucks not to know, because if they are not first run rewards, I probably would not go past the 4-star reward, and I would wait until I get Darth Maul later on to get those 3 in the future. I am assuming that they are one-time rewards, but CG has been generous in the past with some of these things, so I'm not willing to suggest either way. The other thing to keep in mind is this might be a pattern going forward for the next era and the next era and the next era over and over again. And if that is the case, that means that there may actually be a huge amount of additional incentive to get the episode pass, because as a free-to-play player, that's stupid, not as a free-to-play player, but as a light spender, spending just $20 a month on the episode pass, and I know that that seems like a lot, but I was spending $15 a month to play Star Wars Galaxies back in 2003. If you are spending the $20 a month to get the episode pass, which is going to give you a considerable amount of resources outside of the era and everything else, you will end up with additional free, totally free rewards at the end of the era, pretty much unexpected, which is a nice reward to consider. So if you're on the fence about that purchase and you're thinking, man, all these R9 and Omicron materials are nice, these shards are nice, but I'm not so sure yet, consider that coming up in the next era, there is a very, very, very real possibility that there are going to be additional incentives. The unfortunate thing here is that CG does like to change the rules. CG does like to change the game. CG does not like to give us info on that in the future. So it is unlikely that we will have that information until Marquee number 5 in the future, which means if you are on the fence, you will be rolling the dice. However, I will once again stipulate that I believe that to be a very strong value if you are somebody that wants to spend on this game. And once again, if you are completely free to play, we'll kind of look at this screen again. We'll look at the averages. If we look at buying the 4 to 4 stars and we look at all of these costs, right? No episode pass, averages 2511. Those 12,000 crystals free to play over the course of 3 months, so 90 days. If we think about that price structure, 12,555 divided by 90 is about 140 crystals per day. Now, the top end players in the game are making about 1,000 crystals per day on average. If you are at the top of your fleet shard, you're making about 400 crystals per day just from that. So what I am trying to say is that if you are completely free to play and we are believing that in eras going forward that this is going to be happening, there is some very real incentive for you to be able to bring these characters to 4 stars immediately to get those additional rewards on top at the end, while also slightly increasing your rewards in Coliseum for that era, depending on what we see. So with all of that said, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Discord, preferably on our Discord server, because there are some other fine ladies and gentlemen and rats in trench coats there who are willing and able to help you. Stay away from Vance. Don't trust his opinions. But I do try to answer my DMs if you feel like your situation is more discreet. And as always, peace out and have a great rest of your day.